Aloha, everyone. I hope you see this unusual lighting situation for me. This is the Maui neutral zone, but I have a guest that is at 8 a.m., so we're at 8 p.m. because she's all the way over on the other side of the world. We're in Maui, she's in Switzerland. Susan Buchser-Lochocki. Is that right?
You got it right.
Buchser-Lochocki. And
Yeah.
she is one of a number of candidates running in the Green Party for POTUS, President of the United States. And I must tell you, if I were going to pick a year to run for President of the United States, this would be the year because the ideas that are being presented by people like you, Susan, are the ones that really need to be heard. So maybe the world will hear us, and somehow through all this, we'll kind of lose Donald Trump. I don't know if we can lose him, but I'm. How are you doing? How are you doing these days in Switzerland of all things? How do you find yourself in Switzerland?
Yeah, well, I guess first I should say hello. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody. Aloha. And I lived for a little bit on Guam, so I'm going to say hafa a day. I think that was the greeting that we had there. And then from Switzerland, we say grüezi miteinander. So,
What language is
hello.
that? What was
That's
that?
Swiss German. It's not High German, it's Swiss German. It's a
Oh,
dialect. And so grüezi is like saying hello, and then miteinander means together. So I'm saying hello together.
well, the fact that you're running for president and that we're in this COVID time where everyone's on lockdown and can't travel, I'm sure in your quest to get your information out, it's been a bit of a challenge. Maybe it's not. Maybe you like doing all these things over the distance, but I know a lot of people like to press the flesh. How's it been for you up in this campaign?
Well, I actually was in the United States. So I started my campaign in November. I actually started a little before that, so testing the waters in September, because I was in the U.S. then for a class reunion and some other things, and then we had a Swiss family join us. I was there sometime alone, and then also sometime with my family. And then we had a Swiss family join us, and I showed them around, or we showed them around New York City because they had never been to the U.S., and so we were sort of tour guides. Um, but at the time, I needed approval from my family that I could run for president. So it was the testing waters period, but I was also, letting people know that I was interested. And then I came back to Switzerland, and I finally got the okay from my family to do this. And then I had to go back to the U.S. to set up, like a bank account and all sorts of things that I needed to do. And so then I really started, meeting people a little bit. And then I came back because it was, Christmas time and New Year's and whatnot. And then I had an art show going on at the American Women's Club here in Zurich that I needed to attend, and my mom was coming and whatnot. There's a lot of Americans anyways living here. And
How
so
did
I
you
thought,
happen upon Switzerland? I mean, to run for president, and where are you from in the States, or what? Where's your base here?
well, let me just finish this part, and then
Oh,
I'll
sure.
go back. But so then I extra came back in February and March this year to go around the country to see where the problems were, and I hit 28 states in the continental United States. I've been to Hawaii so we took 2 vacations back to back in Hawaii, um, 3 and 4 years ago as a family. We were on Maui for one, and we were on the Big Island for a different one when the volcano was erupting,
Oh, yeah.
and then we were naturally in Oahu. So yeah, so we were a little bit in Hawaii too. But anyways, and maybe that might have been sort of the spark, because I just love Hawaii. It's just a magical place, but that's a whole nother story. Um, but anyway, so traveling around the country, meeting with different people, both green people and just people of all walks of life, from very rich to poor and all sorts. I got a real feeling for the difficulties and where things are falling apart. I also met with the Navajo Nation, with somebody from the government there, and they gave me a good insight into the Native American issues. And I went from coast to coast. I was in like New Hampshire and New York and Boston, all the way to LA, and down to Texas, and I hit actually a few states that I had never been in before too, so that was quite interesting. And
This
and then I
February?
came back, and then the virus was breaking. That was in like March 10th. And then Switzerland went into lockdown, and then shortly thereafter, US went into lockdown, and it's been like that ever since. So what I've discovered is that it's really actually you reach more people online. So it's actually a benefit to just work online and be centrally located. Plus, because I'm a green, I'm trying to uh, be more ecological, minded. So saving the planet and traveling around all that time with like a car or something puts a lot of pollution in the air. So by sitting here and working from home, I was able to, also participate in not polluting the air. So that was good. And then I could reconnect with the people that I met and meet new friends, also online and through the party and whatnot. So yeah, it's actually been better this way.
So where were you born, or are you,
So
and where did you
yeah,
grow up? That you ended up in Switzerland. I mean, that's
yeah.
interesting. And that you're running from Switzerland is something new to
Well,
me.
what a lot of people don't know is Switzerland itself. I like to call it our 51st state because there are lots of Americans here, and
Sure.
then we also do a lot of our international dealings through Switzerland. So the other country that has a UN building, official UN building in it, is Switzerland. So we have the headquarters in the US, but the other headquarters is here in Geneva. And then from there, Switzerland is our contact in many countries. It used to be our contact, I think, in Cuba, and then it was now our contact in Venezuela. So we work through our the Swiss embassy here, and then through their Swiss embassies in the countries like Iran, and I'm not sure all the different ones. I think Saudi Arabia or United Emirates has just signed on through Switzerland to be our contact. So Switzerland is sort of very connected to the United States in many ways. And, who knows what happens in the future, but yeah, one step at a time. So I was born on Travis Air Force Base in California. And my father was in the Air Force and he fought in Vietnam. And that's why we ended up on Guam for 2 years.
I
So
see.
to get to Guam, we had to fly to Hawaii, and then from Hawaii, then we went off to Guam, and yeah. I mean, you're living in Hawaii, you know how wonderful it is. So it's the Pacific Islands are amazing, and what can I say? I have very fond memories. But California was also great, I have to admit. It's a nice state, and I just absolutely adored my time there. Well, I should say all the states are wonderful. I mean, I can't pick a real, you know, favorite one.
Well,
But
it's a big deal to run for president. So, like when someone says I'm running, I'm trying to get an idea. If I was someone said, "Well, you better ask her where she go to school and what kind of background they have." But the decision to run for president, you obviously gave it some thought. And
yeah,
so, what were you doing before it made you feel that that was a role you wanted to take on?
yeah. Well, so what happened is my father retired after Guam, and we went to Rochester, New York. And I lived there for 8 years, so my junior high and high school years. And then I took myself off to art school in New York City, Parsons School of Design, which I studied illustration. I had actually wanted to study fine art, but my parents said no, because we're not going to pay for a fine art degree for you because it was so expensive. So, and we were anyways taking out student loans and all this. And by the time I was done, I had student loans up to here. But anyways, long story short is I was then an artist, and I was, not doing well. It was the time when they decided to add cameras to the courtrooms, so that put a lot of artists out of work. And then it was the advent of computers, which put a lot of other artists out of work. So there was a whole, lot of artists that were out of work. And eventually I went back to school and I learned typing and word processing. And then I started working in a bank. And then I liked it. I liked having, one of the reasons why I started working in a bank was because I didn't have any health care coverage, or I should say any affordable health care at the time. I was working as a freelancer, and then I was also working in restaurants, and you don't get health care. So what happened was I started working in banking because I was good at math. And then I started moving into the circles there, and I decided to get my Series 7 in 63 because the bank was supporting me, and I thought it would help my career in that side. So I
Series
switched.
7 and Series 63 are
That's
different
right.
kinds of licenses that you need to sell different kinds of securities. Okay.
That's right. And insurance, yeah.
Okay.
And so I was officially a stockbroker, or I could have been. So I did try it for a while. I wasn't very good at being a stockbroker, but I stayed in the securities industry, and I worked for a while in different banks. And then I eventually met this nice Swiss man at a Swiss bank that I was working at. And he said, well, I like you, you like me. And he said, I don't want to live in New York. And I said, well, I've lived already many places. I can live in Switzerland. So then I came here, and then we started a family. And that's a whole nother story. We had many difficulties having a family. Our first son was only lived one day, so that was really tough. And then we have eventually, like 5 months later, I got pregnant again with a girl, and she was born, and we had about 3 years of health with her. And then unfortunately she got leukemia. So
Wow.
then, yeah. So then we were about 2.5 years in medical treatments with her. And then we had about a year and a little bit off. And then suddenly the leukemia came back again. So then it was another 2 years of treatment. So in all, it was about 6 years of constantly going to the hospitals and everything. And yeah, but she's now 18 years old, and she took her last pill at 10 years old, and she is cured, supposedly. So yeah. So anyway, that's how I got to Switzerland. That's a little bit of the fast story of what's happened to me since I got here.
Well, so not that you need any specific experience to be president, but it's quite a role to take on. You have to know how to go left, how to go right, how to do. Give me a little bit more on your background there. What makes you feel, or what do you want to do as president that motivated you to do this kind of move? Because I'm sure, I don't know if have you had much conversation with the other candidates in any kind of debate or things like that yet?
Yeah, we've had different forums, and so yeah, I've participated, and they've been good. This is going to be the longest conversation I've had, so this is going to be interesting to see what this is like. But for the most part, it's been really interesting. I do hold different views than some of the other ones, and I'm not a pure green. I do have my personal variations, and as an artist, I see outside of the box, which I think, unfortunately, some of our people see inside the box. So I think that's a benefit. I think that's a benefit. For me, what brought me here is, so going back to my art school years, the first year of art school, you study art history. And one of my favorite movements was the Dadaist movement, which was about freedom of speech and freedom of expression and peaceful protest. And it started here in Zurich. And so, for me, when my husband said, well, you want to come live with me in Zurich? I was, as an artist, the artist inside of me was screaming out, yes, yes. That's the home of Dada. So, I was thrilled to be in Zurich and walking around where the Dadaists had started and, everything. So then when my daughter was well, I slowly got back into art. And it was coming up on the 100-year anniversary of Dadaism in 2016. And I realized that that was going on and they were celebrating. And I said, wow, I want to get involved. And then I saw on their website that they had a way to get involved. So I did. So I went around then the country here in Switzerland and I promoted Dadaism at different events. And I have to backtrack a little bit. I have a newish style of art that I do. What I like to do is I photograph people's smiles and I make something called a smile cloud. Now, the first smile cloud was started because I was invited to an art show where I was going to be an artist at the event. And people were going to be walking by, and I wanted to do something with them to interact. And now in Switzerland, people don't really smile here. And they're very sort of rigid and yeah. So a little bit, what I started was to help them, but it was also to help me. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to ask the people that stopped by if they would smile for me and I could photograph their smile. And then the idea was to hang the smiles together. Every night I would go home, print out the smiles, and then I would put them into like this sort of cloud looking thing of smiles. And it was working. It was working. There were supposed to be 40,000 people walking through this event. So I was thinking, I would get quite a few smiles. I eventually only got 120 plus smiles. I will say only 30,000 people came that year. Probably only about 10,000 walked by my stand. And then out of that, there were probably about 100 people who said no, that they wouldn't smile for me. And so anyways, that's what I ended up with. So that's how it started. It was sort of, to get people together. My works bring people together. And so that was the birth of that. That was how that came to be. And then eventually, like I said, I started to do that more often, bring people together on certain topics. So then I was bringing people together on Dadaism, and it was to promote peace and unity between people without prejudice, and so on and so forth. So then I was taking a little break because that was a big project, and then a friend of mine said, no, you need to start again. So I decided then the next one would be based on, it was the year when France was having all the terrorist attacks, and since Switzerland is right next to France, it was getting closer and closer to home. So I decided I would create a smile cloud that united people of different religions and also people who are not religious. And I'm up to a little over 1,000 smiles now. It's an ongoing project. But anyways, so long story short is with that smile cloud, I was done with the project. My husband was complaining because he was spending all this money and not selling any art. And so I thought, well, how can I promote peace and make money at the same time? Because that's ultimately what my projects are about, promoting peace. This was the one that I'm doing right now, which is It's Enough Already, Smile for Peace, was about that. So then I looked around and I thought, I could be president of the United States. What better job to have to promote peace than that job? And it's available. People are going for it, and you get paid a salary. So I thought, well, that's a great opportunity. And then I thought, eventually when I'm president, or maybe after my presidency, I will be known, and then I can easily get the smiles of the leaders of the countries too, because I think that would be very powerful to have their smiles in a smile cloud. So
here I'm going to be an audience. So now I tuned in to see the Green Candidate. So I'm watching all adjacent shows, and here comes Susan Buchser-Lochocki.
Buchser, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was I close? Lochocki?
Lochocki was perfect. Buchser.
Buchser.
Yeah.
What did I say? Anyway, and
It's okay.
and I asked her, what do you want to be president for? And she doesn't say anything so far. That like we're in the middle of a COVID crisis. The whole world has exploded financially. There's all kinds of things going on. What we know you want peace, and I'm with you. And I hope that you have a platform through this, so more people get to see your smile clouds, and so your art gets the viewing, myself included, that it deserves. Because I know that from your heart. But
Mhm.
I'm to run for president is like I keep thinking you ran for specifics or things you'd like to change. Especially, have you spent much time in the States or have you been traveling different countries? And I always wondering to know what's going on in the world is good. I'm wondering how it relates to what's going on here. I mean, I'm just Green. It chose the Green Party way back when I ran. It was 1992 and four and six. That was a long time ago when we were pretty well running just to put the green platform out and to put ideas into the minds of people that were nowhere near that. Now our ideas, you say green, everyone grabs the name, thinks they got it right, and they're all green because it's not sacrilegious to say you're environmentally responsible, you know. Before you were considered radical. I was a radical, which I always found very funny. So you chose green because the platform was close to your heart, with some exceptions.
Yeah, well, I was raised in a Republican household, and then when I left home at 18, I became, independent. I voted in every election, and I never, I always voted for who I liked rather than what party they were in. Um, and then being in Switzerland, there was a large group of Democrats or something called Democrats Abroad, which I know some people who were in there. So normally from Switzerland, you can't vote in a primary unless you are in a party. So I decided on the Democrats about 10 years ago, or maybe 12 years ago, on this Democrats Abroad group. Um, and I should say I actually technically really didn't even um, join the Democrats Abroad. I just became a Democrat so I could participate in primaries. So then I
in
started
in
voting
Switzerland, yes,
in
right,
Switzerland. Yeah, yeah. With
yeah.
it. I don't want to go into it, but the way that we vote from abroad is it's unbelievably, shockingly bad. But that's a whole nother story.
You're talking about the
So
way we Americans
yes,
vote while we are not residing in the United
that's
States.
that's right. Yes,
Well,
it's
that
really
deserves some comment. Why is it something you can put in a nutshell?
well. So when I first started voting from abroad, we would get this like cardboard card with a little wire, and then you're supposed to punch holes into it of who you wanted to vote for, and then you put it back into this envelope and you send it back, and it's clearly labeled all over the place. This is a voting ballot and stuff like that. So tampering 100%. It can really happen. And nowadays, what you do to vote from here is you can do it online. So online is you tell them you want to vote. They send you an email with a PDF that you print out and you tape everything together. Like you have to tape the envelope together and you have this ballot that you fill out. We no longer have to punch the holes in it. Now we color in circles. And then you put it in this taped up envelope and you mail it. Again, everything's clearly written, ballot. So tampering 100%. I mean, and there's enough people, enough Americans voting, living abroad that we have a whole nother state out here. We have enough people to create a state. So this is it's kind of big. But yeah, so that's certainly one of my issues. I don't see why we can't. do it really online. I don't understand that. Why can't we just vote online? Or just everybody gets the same ballot situation. They're mailed out 1 month before the election with all the names on it, and you just vote and you mail it back in. I mean, I don't see why there are separate ones for each state and everybody does it differently. I don't get our system. Some things need to be standardized. Sorry, and this is certainly one of them. So I am shocked. I am often shocked with certain things, and that's one
So,
of them.
you would do something about the procedures for elections.
I
Okay.
think so. It's certainly not the highest thing. I think we have other things that might be higher on the priority list.
What would you
But
do now with, let's say, crime? You've been hearing all this stuff now about what's happened in the United States. I'm sure this situation with George Floyd there in
yes, well,
Minneapolis.
and we're having protests over here for George and the whole situation too. And Switzerland is not a saint by any means. Switzerland also has their own issues as a country, but that's a whole different story. But we have people here are in support of the protesters 100%. I am too. um, I think this has been good even before all of this came out, and we knew we saw the video of George and his death and everything. It was already on my plan because I had already realized that there were these issues. And I want to legalize drugs. I want to legalize prostitution. We need to get police to stop patrolling, because basically what they're doing is they're looking for somebody doing something. And if they don't find somebody doing something, we now know they make it up sometimes. So I think this is a huge issue, and we don't need police going around looking for people doing bad things, because by doing that you stress people out, and the police are on the hunt, so to speak, and then the people feel hunted. And I'm not just talking about Black people, I'm talking about all people. I know I have felt, when I'm driving in my car and there's a policeman coming, I feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do everything correctly, and if I do something wrong, I'm going to be in trouble.
So you
So
feel that we should, what should policemen do? Just be there if you call them?
that's right. Yep. I
And
think
what if,
we could have police driving around and looking not for troublemakers, but looking to see how people are behaving, and just see where maybe trouble might be, or an area they might notice. There's a big pothole suddenly, so they might notice that, and then they have to call. I don't know what department that is, but then they have to call them and say, look, there's a pothole there, can you fix it? Or just something like that. Yeah, I just don't think that they should be really on the beat anymore. That's not necessary.
but is that
What
because you think people have changed in some way that they, um, I mean, with all the rioting and all the things that we've seen, people breaking into stores, whoever they're connected with or whether they're independent. So isn't that like late to have some kind of presence? Once the stores are being broken into, that's when you'd call someone. That's why I'm
Well, see, my platform, it's all inclusive. You can't take one piece without the other.
all
So
right.
I'm calling for mandatory participation in community service. I used to be calling it, I was calling it up upgrading, or not upgrading, upcycling the military. But I think people still have this issue with military and so on. So I think upcycling the community service is the best way to put it. So you go for training. We train you for about 3 months, and then we send you to different places to use the new skills that you have. You might learn
So
anything from road repair um, to working in a
So this is
like
like
at a
service.
farm. And
I want to say service for the state. I want to say in Israel, like to use them as a good example, where everyone has a level of jobs and responsibility. It may be fighting, it might be to be militaristic, but it might be other things that contribute to the welfare of the country. We all are involved. Is that what you're saying?
yes, exactly. So that it's our country, it's our community. And therefore, you won't have, you might still have one or two bad doers, but it's probably because they need some mental help. So we get them into therapy, we help them, and then if they're really not somebody who can be placed in society, then maybe we put them into a institution like a prison or something. But right now, I think the biggest problem is we have too many people in prisons and being arrested for minor things that, as we now know, white people have certain privilege, and it's really true, and black people, don't. And then we have all the colors in between who get into trouble too, with certain drugs like smoking marijuana. You know, this is something that a lot of people do, and some people get caught and go to jail for it, and other people don't get bothered. And this is not fair. So it's clear, anyways, the system is not working. It's broken. It's not fair. And we need to make it fair. And so that would be one of my goals, is to make fairness.
Financially, I mean, I would say the biggest thing that I don't hear, not only you but in general, is everything costs money, and in a more socialist state, the state says, okay, it's mandatory, all this happens, and we'll get you your basics of food and whatever other things. But well, here's the system. In America, where people want more freedom and choice, so if you said mandatory, freedom of choice either way, where do we get the money? Like when we talk about the jails and what should be there, what often seems to be the biggest issues is money. I keep thinking that if our society was more integrated in finances, whether it's through a participation marketplace where somehow people get paid when others that they refer in shopping, so that someone like Jeff Bezos at Amazon doesn't have this disruptive idea to everyone's going to start doing things online. Now the whole world has shifted to online. We're losing retail. I mean, there's all kinds of aspects going on. So as president, and I'm really just trying to get a feeling for what you would do. I hear interesting ideas, and I I don't doubt that you'd be happy if some of these ideas were embraced by people that are in different offices, because your shot of being president as a green, this at least this election cycle, unless you have a little more money and promotion, you may not get the kind of exposure that you'd hope to get. Even if it was just to be the top green to get in the election. So I'm doing this to pull your ideas of things that I think can be valuable for people in this country, because that's what I
Yeah.
look at: green values. And out here in Hawaii, I can talk about regenerative agriculture and food security, and we don't have enough housing and all kinds of different stuff. But when I'm talking to you, I'm trying to get a feeling for what major policy things that you would put in place that might um, move this game forward in a more peaceful and inclusive way. So I don't mean to seem
So,
funny. I'm just trying to reach for more meat, if you will, or
yeah, well,
more.
for me, the fastest way forward to make everything equal for everybody, to really bring everybody to one level, would be to take away money. Let's take away money. We don't need it. We can we can do it. So I have like I have already a video out there, actually 2 videos, of my 4 different ways to go forward from all of this coronavirus crisis and everything. And so the first way is that if the whole world would go without money, that would make everything even all over the planet. I would recommend that everybody stay at their jobs for the next 2 years until we get a training program in focus, working, and then we can then start investigating having people work in more jobs that they really want to work in. I think a lot of people are doing jobs that they don't want to do currently, and they're all stressed out, and then that stress is coming out in tensions between people of all levels.
Well,
And
now there are some 40, I don't want to say 50, 40 something million people that through in the last few months are suddenly finding themselves unemployed. So
yes,
staying in the same jobs is hard. I'm thinking about retraining them. The question is, I mean, I may have
that
ideas,
that was the idea. So yes, the people who are so truthfully, people work more in the US, people work more than one job. So they might be unemployed from one job, but they might be working at another job. They might be working part-time someplace else. So, you know, just because we have all these unemployment numbers, that doesn't mean that people still aren't working someplace else. But that's a
I
whole
can
nother
tell you,
story.
I have seen a lot of people that are not working anywhere else. They're in well, I'm in the land of tourism. And the people that
Yeah,
are in the hotels and in the restaurants and in that whole industry and all the support things don't have other jobs. And they've been home, and some of them are in, quote, critical services. But here, things are closing down. And, here we are. The economy is going to open up, but there are very few places that are saying, yes, we're ready to open up. And we're in a very special place. I mean, I don't know. What's it like near you? Are you finding the COVID thing is uh, believable there? People taking it seriously?
people are really taking it seriously. Switzerland really stopped. We hardly had any real issues with people following the instructions. Um, I personally, as an artist, I spend a lot of time alone anyways. So I have 2 dogs that I was constantly with. But, my family, my daughter is a nurse, or she's in the apprenticeship program here in Switzerland to be a nurse. And so she had to go and work at the Children's Hospital, the same one that she got her leukemia treatment at. She wants to give back in that way. So I would drive her there so that she wouldn't have to take public transportation. Switzerland has a really good public transportation system here, but as a nurse, I didn't want her to be exposed to those germs. So I made sure that she got there with as little contact with others as possible. And my husband too, he's in banking, and so banking was still going on, so he had to still go to work too. So I was always here alone. And for me, the only time when I actually really confronted the whole issue was when I would go grocery shopping, where I'd have to wash my hands before I went into a store, or when I have an older dog that needed to go to the vet, and there we had some strange procedures.
Well,
So
your
um,
situations are very person specific. I mean, 45
yes,
million people unemployed,
I
New
know.
York, and major things going on across the United States. Never mind, Switzerland has been smart. America has been stupid. America has been.
It's not
There's a
stupid. It's just a different way. It's a different way of
well,
business that's evolved. You can't help it. It's how the US has decided to evolve, but now it's time to evolve further, is my point. And
uh,
I think that evolving to no money would be the best way and the quickest way to even out everything. Then people would work for the community. Groceries would come to your doorstep. You don't have to even go, or you can go. Everything would be flexible, And eventually what would happen, maybe that's where we start with the unemployment people, the people who are not working. We start with their training first. Why not? So we just start with their training. We train them in these different new jobs, and
And
then we start the new.
how do we make that happen? Or who's going to train them, and how do they get compensated in a way? I mean, the transition from people saying,
There's
"Oh
no
yeah,
money.
yeah, I know," but now you believe that, but what about the rest of the world? I mean, if you say, "Okay, here's the deal, no more money," surely there are going to be some people that might have some difficulty with that, right?
Yes, well, we're probably seeing how to deal with that right now with the protests that are going on in the United States. So, of course, you still have the National Guard and you still have the Army, and those people might have to come in and help control the people who are not happy with living without money. Although I don't know. I don't know if the top 1% is going to come out on the streets and complain, I want my money back. I don't think
Well,
they're going to do that.
I'm not sure, not that I am all knowing, but I don't see how that would have an easy time being accepted.
It's not going
The
to be easy.
transition would be
It's
kind of,
transition. Transition.
and people that say, "Oh no, 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 that's socialism." You've heard these kind of words. Um,
Yeah.
I don't like to describe them with any kind of words. So what you prefer, it sounds like what you want to do is sort of, I don't want to say give everyone something each month, but if there's no money, you're giving certain basic rights as part of the living, which is a shift a little bit in the system. And what do you do with people that somehow were, quote, you call them one percenters, but people that had a lot that now suddenly you're coming in with a curveball? First of all, I don't know how you'd pass that law, but let's say I don't know how you would pass that law. How would you get people to vote for that?
Well, if they vote for me, I guess they're voting for that. But what I have online on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, is I have a Talk Tuesday where I talk about 4 different ways of going forward. One of them is to go back to what we had before. And if that's what you want, then I am absolutely not your president. So you don't have to vote for me because I am not going back to what was before. Period. End of story. The second option, which which is a step down from what we had before, towards what I'm talking about. So, yeah, is I attended some years ago a conference about women, and the state of women and the future of women of the world at the UN in Geneva. So I visited the UN and I've gone to some women's conferences there. And it was very interesting. And by the end of the day, I was there with a group of American women from Zurich. We all walked away with the thought that, well, one of the worst things you can do as a woman in your lifetime is become a mother. And the reason for that statement is that it takes you out of your career path, takes you out of the work world, and being a mother in the past was seen as, you know, nothing. It's a nothing job, and we do it for free. There's no pension, there's no nothing. So, and then, like, let's say you're done with motherhood and you're starting to work again, you come in at a different level than people of your same age or whatever. And all these people have been working and building up connections and stuff, and you just aren't in that world. So you're already at a lower rate. Now, let's say though that while you're being a mother, your husband dies, or let's say that when you're done, you can't get a job. So this is all things that lead eventually to poverty, and really it does in a lot of countries. Oftentimes, too, men walk away, and or if you get divorced, your husband takes his pension with you, so you don't get that pension money either that he was earning, and just all sorts of things. So in general, it's clear that it's a bad thing. But one of the things that occurred to me is that it's a job and we're not getting paid for it, and it's not being taken seriously. And that is one of the reasons why we have also so many unhappy children, and I'm going to say so many children who are going into schools and shooting. I think there's too less love in the family and in the family unit, and too less respect between children and parent right now in the US. I think the US has multiple problems that have evolved over time, and we sort of forgot a lot of things in the process. So my presidency will bring connectedness back, bring respect back to the family by giving mothers pay. I want to pay mothers for their work because it's important work, and it will uh, bring a more solidifying family unit by having a woman being paid, and then the man, and a woman. When I say woman, I'm only calling this that because we've been doing this job for so long for free. But a man can be in that position and get that pay, and the woman can be the one going off and working in a bank or wherever. And or if it's a same-sex couple, whoever stays at home with the children and raises them will get that money, will get that pay. Because one of the times in your life where you need the most money is when you become a family. You know, you have a lot of things that you have to buy for a baby, like a stroller and a crib and just all sorts of things. So it's the way our system currently is functioning, it's not, and that's what we're seeing. It's broken. So I say it more clearly in my videos that I've had, but
That's probably what we should probably do it, because you say it in your videos clearly. Let's get them to there, because we only have a few minutes left, and I'm sure you want to have a summation. What's a good website? Because you have videos, a lot of videos up there.
I do. I have, well, every morning right now since for about, I don't know, a month and a half, I started doing a coffee with me where I give different political opinions or different ideas or even inspirational thoughts every morning. You know, I give something. I will say sometimes I get a little behind schedule, and so it might be in the afternoon or evening, but I try to get one out every day. And then I have special things that I do on Tuesdays where I have a Talk Tuesday that go
Do you
more
have
in
a
depth.
Do you have this at some website, or how do people find out more about you and your
So,
ideas?
so okay, so where you can find me is on YouTube. These videos are all on YouTube. I have a few that I haven't uploaded yet from earlier times, so at the beginning of all this. Then my presidential website is down still. Google hasn't put it back up from the I don't know. I updated my telephone number on it, and suddenly they took it down. So I don't know what's going
Okay.
on there. So, but I
Well,
have a
we
different
only have a
website.
couple of more minutes, so
I
I'm
have a
looking
different.
for.
I have a different website. It's my art one, which is it's called N Art. So it's www.n like Nancy dash art, the word .ch for Switzerland. Switzerland's abbreviation is CH. I'm on Facebook. I have my personal Facebook
You can,
page and my
if you'll
face.
send me, you can send me some of these, and because
Okay,
otherwise
why don't
you'll
I do
have a
that?
minute left, and all you'll be doing is giving out addresses.
So I'm Susan Buchser-Lochocki, running for President of the United States with the Green Party. Vote for me, please. If you're green, vote for me in your primary if it's coming up. If you're not green and you want to vote for me, then I'll see you in November, hopefully, and you can vote for me then. I am all about a revolution in lifestyle, quality of life for everybody, and human potential for all.
Okay. And you're going to send me all the web addresses, so I'll be posting them all over the video. You'll be seeing it. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really
Thank
happy
you.
to be here. Thank you, Jason, for asking me to come. I'm really thrilled. And aloha to everybody. And yeah, tschüss is what we say in Swiss German. Tschüss.
And I just know that it's really important to me to give you a chance to have your what you want to say heard, because it takes a lot to run for president, whether it's Green Party or not, whether it's a primary. You have ideas you want to put out, and obviously it's very important that we all hear each other so we can start implementing some of these solutions and to make this a better and more peaceful world.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
unfortunately, an hour is not enough to get everything out. So yes, just check out my YouTube videos,
Yeah.
and you'll find out a lot. So
Well,
again, thank
we can always do something in the future. This is our makeshift studio. We're doing at home with Zoom.
you. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the
Well,
stock we should have bought last week, right?
well, maybe money won't be worth anything soon. So
Well, if we don't treat
have
each
to choose.
other nicely, what good is a world where you have a lot of money and nothing around you is functional? That's not a life I want to live.
That's right.
Yeah, that's an ending. What's behind you? What is all that?
So these are my ideas. These are things that matter to me. Shall I show you closer what
Sure,
they are? Give you a little tour. This
sure.
is my home studio too. So I have like all these things. I used to write an article in our American Women's Club booklet called Art Matters. And then at some point, a few years after I was writing Art Matters, then suddenly Black Lives Matter came. And then I decided I would continue with the Matters theme. So these are all different things that matter to me, things I want to work on, things that are important, I think, to everybody. You know, I think you're
Gotcha.
seeing them all.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So that's
What
what's
is
behind me.
what are you wearing that looks that purple badge? What is all that?
Well, and see, yeah, we probably should have talked about that a little bit, but we
Well, here
didn't
we
get
are.
a chance.
We could talk a little
So,
bit.
so I'm dressed like a suffragette. It's the 100-year anniversary year of women's rights to vote this year, and I'm marching still for women's rights because we don't have all the rights that men have, and it doesn't matter what color you are, we just don't have the same rights. So, as we talked earlier, one of my rights is about motherhood and getting paid for that important job that we do. And then also, I want prostitution to be made legal because that's also an important woman's job that needs actually to be done. I think that's part of the problem is that it's illegal. And I think men need that ability to go and be with a woman. I think our society needs to change their thinking on that. So, anyways, this is a traditional suffragette outfit from 100 years ago. And this is the badge. This is what they used to wear. I'm going to try to get a close up. It says Votes for Women. And in August, it will be the 100-year really anniversary is coming up. But this
I
is the
see.
anniversary year. So I'm, celebrating every day my womanhood and our right to vote that we've been able to do it for 100 years. It's great. So that's why. And then this I picked up in the Navajo Nation when I was there. It's summertime, so I can't wear my full presidential coat and stuff. So this is my summertime presidential coat.
I got you.
And I'm also really. I think we need to help the Native Americans. I think they've really fallen through the cracks. And in my presidency, I plan on definitely helping them as much as possible. Right? Yeah.
Thank you for being with us, Susan. I hope that everything goes well. I look forward to seeing what's happening here in the election. And I appreciate all your ideas. I look forward to going through them myself.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha. Bye.